Josh, okay, great. I'm seeing, great, thank you. Well, we're glad that you can all join us. Okay, so depending on where you're joining us from, we're here in sunny California. Well, it's a little overcast, but Pacific time, we can say good morning, or for those of you who are joining us from the East Coast, we'll say good afternoon. Nevertheless, we're happy to have you join today's session. This is today's first of three in the spring series of Forum Infotech's educational series. We are holding them on the last Tuesday of the month. So today being number one, and then at the end of the session, we'll share the calendar with you for the two upcoming sessions. Our goal with this session is to help you increase your network security from ransomware, to increase your productivity and collaboration with a tool that your team may already have access to. And finally, we'll round it out in June with understanding how backup and disaster recovery helps to restore business continuity during an unforeseen disaster or, unfortunately, a cyber attack. So today's session is to educate you specifically on ransomware. This form of cyber attack is indeed a real threat, especially to small and medium-sized businesses. So let me, by way of a few housekeeping items, this morning's format, we'll do about a 25-minute presentation, and then we've allowed ample time for question and answer. So please feel free to type your questions into the chat box. We'll address them either as we go along, depending on the flow and the type of specific nature of the question. And then most certainly by the end, we will have time to address everyone's questions. So as I indicated, please, as the thoughts come up, go ahead and get those questions into the chat. That's going to help us to consolidate those topics for you. Today's session is being recorded. Everyone is in mute mode. We're going to send you a link as well as a link to the other sessions in the series. So let me just take a quick moment and share a brief introduction of our presenter. Biren Shukla, who's the president of Forum Infotech, started our company in 2004 and incorporated it in 2005. So officially, that's 12 years on the books, which is a pretty strong track record in the IT world. I think you would agree. Biren approaches every conversation to add solutions that bring value to customers and the relationship. It's a mission to become our customers' trusted advisor. Now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Biren Shukla.
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate the warm introduction. It's always kind of strange listening to somebody else, build you up. But thank you again, and thank you to everybody who has joined our webinar today. We are so excited to bring this to you. It's all, like Lisa said, it's all about bringing value to our customers. So just a quick introduction about ourselves. We are basically a managed IT services company. We specialize in cloud computing along with on-premise solutions. We have a variety of clients throughout Inland Empire, Orange County, and LA, as well as clients throughout the country under our Level Cloud umbrella. So Level Cloud, of course, is a brand of Forum Infotech. I won't get into much detail. So today's topic is about ransomware, and we have tried to keep the session extremely simple so that it's easy for our audience to understand and take home and have some fantastic take-home items and food for thought. And what we're going to do is talk about ransomware, talk about how how to look out for it, how to protect your business, give you some statistics, and then end with Q&A. Okay, so without further ado, what is ransomware, right? The most simplest definition of ransomware, that it's a type of software. It's a malware. It's a piece of software that not without your intention gets installed on your PC, and it's worse because of the damage that it does and how it plays with our emotion, and ultimately wants money, right? Asks you for money. So it's a piece of software. It's like a malware. It just because they ask for money is why it's called ransomware. So this is the best definition of ransomware's business model, right? It's to deprive the users from access to files and data that they care about and they absolutely want it back, and then try to extract a few hundred, $2,000, depending on the type of business. Today, it is the number one disaster. If I had to, look at all the disasters that are happening in the IT world, it's more common than hard drive failures or user data deletions, and things like that. So it is pretty prevalent today. Some of our customers have been impacted by it, and but fortunately we have been able to recover them, and we'll talk about the strategies that we deploy today for our customers, and what you can do to protect yourself. So you may have heard of different types of ransomware. The most common one out there is CryptoLocker. There are many different variants of ransomware. So some, do certain types of attacks in a certain way. Some change the extension of your file. Some encrypt the data on your files and anything that it can see from your computer. So there's different variants, and they can cause different types of damages. But you can see it's out there, and there's all these different kinds of names. So who are these people that are behind this epidemic? These are basically bad guys, hackers, organized crime, nation states sometimes. So they're everywhere, and they're out to cause damage. As you know, this is the quick and easy way of extracting money, easier to do than robbing a bank. So that's kind of the world we live in. And as we alluded earlier, that it's all about the money. They want to extract money by restricting access to data. They take advantage of user mistakes. They try to steal personal information. If you're a hospital, they are going to try and steal patient health information, or basically cripple your organization to the point where you pay the ransom and move on, basically. One of the there are three big assumptions that I wanted to address and upfront in this presentation. One is that you may think that, oh, I'm a small business, I'm a solo practitioner, or I have antivirus on my system, and I have a backup, so I am too small, or it can't happen to me, right? I don't have enough confidential data. So what I wanted to say to that is that this piece of software, malware, is intelligent. It can detect what kind of applications you're running on your computer, and then increase the ransom based on the types of applications that are running. So if they detect, for example, EHR, or electronic health or patient management system, or for a law firm, a case management application, then they actually are intelligent enough to increase the ransom. So no one can escape this. Anybody can be infected. And we live in a world today where it's not just the IT provider's responsibility, it's a shared responsibility, right? You have to educate your users, and therefore we are having this conversation. So which industries are targeted? As you can see here from the slide, pretty much every single industry is affected. At the lowest common denominator, the real estate, all the way to the top three industries being the professional services. They're easy targets because they have a legal obligation to keep the data confidential. These are CPA firms, attorneys, accounting practices, wealth management firms. You get the point. Healthcare, simple, easy targets, cripple them out so they can't see any patients, get lawsuits. So let's go and attack them. But pretty much every industry is targeted. Um, And so it was an eye-opening as we were doing our research for this webinar as well. Now, how do they gain entry into your system? This is also quite interesting. You may think that it's just a phishing attack, just through emails or just by clicking on a malicious website. And those are the two common ways. However, they can get into your system through various different methods, application downloads, gaming applications. Sometimes you're on a Android store or iTunes store downloading an application that could be fake. And also keep in mind that it all comes down to poor browsing habits, and an untrained user can easily put your business to risk. And we'll talk more about that. So, take for example, somebody bringing a USB stick, a personal USB stick, and putting it on office computer, and then ultimately infecting all the shares in the organization, crippling the organization. So here are some recent examples that I wanted to bring to your attention that you may have heard of. Healthcare industry, Hollywood Hospital was infected. They crippled them. They had to got the FBI involved and pay the ransom. That was pretty embarrassing for them. I mean, when I look at these attacks, look at the loss in reputation, right? You're getting famous for an entirely wrong reason, right? So that's what you want to avoid. I mean, we live in a world where reputation is everything, and a simple attack like this can make your organization look really bad in the eyes of your clients. So even a hotel, imagine your guests being locked out of their rooms, right? That's quite embarrassing. And then all the way down to the government being attacked. And this was recent in February, so remains to be seen what actually panned out. But even Target, we all know about how they got infected through a third-party HVAC vendor, systems being compromised. So it's all over the place. We just wanted to highlight a couple of big ones, but give you some varieties to help you understand that these are big customers, have tremendous amount of IT expenditure and IT systems in place, yet this piece of software can infect and create damage. So this is also quite interesting. Now, of course, we are leveraging some of the data from our backup and disaster recovery vendor called Datto, which is what we use primarily for most of our customers. And they surveyed all their providers or other IT companies that are their partners, and we actually participated in that as well, and hence we got to use this. But it's quite interesting that people are reporting less than 25% of attacks are being reported. And you can see why, right? I mean, imagine you're a law firm and you just got infected, and you don't want to go and tell your customers that, hey, we got infected. Oh, by the way, we did not have our backup and systems together. I mean, what kind of impact that can it have on your reputation? I mean, I remember a good friend of mine actually calling me frantically and telling me, Bjorn, we're getting these messages, about Bitcoin, all our extensions and our filings. We have deadlines to meet, and I gave them a quick background. Hey, do you have great backup? And actually I didn't like what I heard on, and I don't know what happened to that law firm after that day. I never heard back, period, after some tips and advice that I gave them. So it can take you out of business too. So this, then it brings me to this point, right? Like, who's really concerned about this? And I was shocked when I saw this survey results come back. Only a third of business owners have awareness about this topic, but on the contrary, 90% of the IT folks are aware of the impact this can have. So what I would say to this is a couple of key takeaways from this slide is, if you have not heard from your IT provider about ransomware, if you've not sat down, if they've not discussed that with you in your quarterly meetings, or if you've not got any material from them, you need to have that conversation with them, right? It's extremely important you reach out to them proactively if they have not done their part, because you need to have that peace of mind mind, you need to know that you have all the mechanisms in place to protect your business. So just a couple of statistics. Right now, our backup and DR vendor is seeing 100 to 200 incidents of ransomware across 200,000 plus devices that they manage. So that's a big chunk, and almost 30 incidents per day. Their support teams helping their clients restoring data. So it is crazy, and that's pretty mind blowing. What I also wanted to mention here is that a lot of businesses today are using file sync and share services. This includes things like Dropbox and OneDrive and Box.com. And what ends up happening is that once that one PC is infected, it can scan that PC, look for the Dropbox agent, and then try and infect all the files that are sitting on your Dropbox account. So this needs to be communicated to your staff. This is extremely important and risk vector for your business. So I know it's easy to use, and almost every business uses some sort of file sync and share services. And to some extent, they may not even know what users are using, right? Because users go out and install things on their computers and they may not even be aware, which is also quite common. So keep that in mind, that that also happens. Now this slide is a little crazy for me because you can see that almost 42% of businesses are paying the ransom. But interestingly, only 1 out of 4 are actually getting their data back. So imagine your files got encrypted and your strategy was to, well, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't have great backup or systems in place. I'm going to just pay the ransom. Guess what? Even after paying the ransom, you don't get your data back. Now that puts your business at risk, right? So therefore, definitely after the webinar, pick up the phone and have that conversation with your IT provider. Extremely, extremely important. Now, we wanted to dig a little bit further too, and find out that when an attack happened, what actually happens, right? Let's say you find out, you got infected, right? So what ends up happening is that it takes a long time before the business even realizes that they're infected and to identify where the infection actually took place from. And then to figure out a strategy or to bring the business, recover the files, if it's renamed, restore from the last good backup. So the amount of downtime that this infection causes is what hurts the business the most. Imagine a law firm missing a deadline. Imagine a CPA firm being hit with a ransomware attack during tax season. And actually, this literally happened just a few weeks ago. We have one of our clients is a CPA firm, and the partner of the firm called us frantic. Hey, we're asking for files for a tax deadline, and our client is saying that they cannot get the files to us, and they're getting this Bitcoin messages. Can you help them out? Looks like something's happened. And I was, and me and Lisa were talking, and we had a 3-way conversation with this client or frantic partner, and we explained to them, and pretty much looks like a ransomware attack. And so this is happening, guys. And so keep in mind that just paying ransom is not a good strategy. And all right, so which systems are being targeted? As you can see, there's no shortage of appetite, right? They're hitting multiple platforms. These bad guys, they're not even sparing Android, iOS. It's all over the place. What are the main causes of ransomware? Well, spam, phishing emails. We have seen many instances where our customers have been smart not to click on certain things. For example, they look at LinkedIn, and in one instance, I remember the owner of a company asking the HR person or the payroll person, I believe, to send all the pay stubs for all their employees. And the message looked like it came from the owner. And they forwarded this to us, and we helped them look at the links on the 2 email. It wasn't even populated, and it was fake. So That's how we were able to avoid that. But they are looking at LinkedIn, they're doing their research, and they're crafting these emails. So phishing being the number one way of getting infected and you clicking on something, right? Those FedEx packages, like, hey, there's a package waiting for you. Here's a receipt for your shipping or whatnot, right? And then the number two cause is a lack of employee training. And that's why, again, we're having this webinar to educate our entire client base. Malicious websites, of course, add up, and then lack of security, just basic security. The problem with antivirus solutions is that they work based on signatures. So let's say an antivirus solution detects a virus, right? And then they write a fix for it, right? And that's in the format of a signature that gets downloaded. So it's not the most efficient way. It takes some time for antivirus companies. So even antivirus companies are throwing up their hands in the air, and it's like, guys, you can't just depend just on us to bail you out. You need to have a robust strategy in place, right? Um, and that's where the shared responsibility model comes in. So BYOD, as you know, every employee today is bringing personal devices to work, and they're using it. They're either connecting to your wireless network, or they're bringing sticks, or they're using iPads, Android tablets in the business. So it's extremely important that those endpoints are protected as well, that they have some sort of protection, or they don't, if they're going to jump on the business network, that they're segregated with a guest ID that does not have access to internal network, right? We need to take those preventative steps. And if they're going to bring their USB sticks, then we need to make sure there's a clear strategy on that. And then when those sticks are attached, that they're scanned, at the very least. There are many things you can do. You can reduce the permissions of your PCs so things don't get installed, don't give auto install permissions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the next thing is, how do you spot these things, right? So the number one thing is, when you get an email that looks suspect, is most of the times the to field in your email is not populated. It's usually BCC'd or something like that. You can even actually copy and paste that link in a notepad or WordPad without clicking on it, and you can see and examine where it's coming from. Most of the time it's coming from another country or Asia or something like that. So, or if you're not familiar with any of this, simply forward it to your IT department, let them deal with it, right? We already talked about not opening those American Express gift card messages or things of that nature. Okay, so this was interesting too, from the survey, that the amount that they're asking for is not humongous, right? They want to fly under the radar. They're trying to charge you a small amount so that it's not so much painful, right? But as a business, it's not about that. It's the downtime, the reputation, the loss in productivity that is more damaging than $500, right? At the end of the day, and then some of them, as I mentioned earlier, if you are an organization where they think they can extract more money, then they do increase the size of the ransom based on the type of business. So that brings to the next point, that we live in a world where if you're a business owner, you need to carry a cyber liability insurance. Okay, we as an IT provider, we are big proponents of this. We have our own coverages, and we are asking our clients to get it, and our clients are paying attention and are getting it. So the process goes like this, right? You speak to your insurance agent. They'll come back to you. They'll ask you to fill out a big form about how your systems are being maintained today, and we help our clients we actually help them out and just fill it out for them, right? Do we have encryption in place or not? Do we have SSL certificates or not? Do we have a frequent backup strategy or not? So you fill everything out, and once you submit all that, then you get your quotes back. So again, highly recommend doing this shared responsibility model. So keep that in mind. All right, moving along. BDR and employee training are the two most effective strategies. One is a backup and disaster recovery strategy, not just a simple file backup or a hard drive backup, but an image-based backup that is not once a day, but few times a day, right? Because if you're a large business and if you're generating a lot of data, single backup a day does not work. You're still going to end up losing a lot of data if you don't have a frequent backup strategy. So we highly recommend that. And again, employee training, as you can see, 4% is antivirus and malware. So they're hardly doing any job here. And this is a real survey from real business owners. So definitely pay attention to this. A few more items here. You can always, we all have talked about this many times. I don't even have to reiterate that you need to have complex passwords. You need to do just the basics, right? Caution when opening attachments, caution when opening links. And then final takeaways from this webinar, we think that frequent backups, keeping your software up to date, right? Unpatched systems are also prone to attacks. So if you're not patching your systems, whether it's a Mac or a PC, then you need to do that. Not just your operating system, but even Adobe packages or the JavaScript, all that needs to be updated as well because they can find vulnerabilities in those applications and exploit them. Also, make sure your spam filtering software is filtering out all the common spams. Nowadays, you can do a lot with spam filtering software, right? You can actually get very, very granular. You can do it by country. You can do it by country of origination. You can do executables. Just there's 7 8 different filters that you can set by subject titles and images. If they're embedded, you can do a lot. And then you can also put it in an area where people can go and see if they're good emails, if there were any false positives or things like that, and you can certainly adjust that. But more importantly, we recommend that you work with IT providers or IT partners that are experts in your industry, right? If you're a law firm, try to work with somebody who specializes in your industry, right? Kind of makes sense, right? Because they know all the, you know, um, confidentiality requirements, auditing requirements. If you have large customers like Walmart and Target that you're fighting cases for, they have their auditors who are coming to your site inspecting your systems, and you want to be able to speak to them with confidence. So, and ultimately also make sure you have um, we talked about this encryption at rest and in transit as well. So with that, Lisa, I think we should open it up for Q&A. And I see a couple of questions here already that people have asked. So let's go ahead and answer those.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So Julie, Julie is asking us. Oh, Julie, you're in Florida. Okay. How can I go about buying cyber insurance? I hadn't heard about that term before. It sounds like Julie looks like she's with a law firm.
Okay, so this is an excellent question. A couple of years ago, cyber liability wasn't very popular. There were very few insurance carriers even offering that. But with cloud computing being so prevalent today, many carriers are now offering coverage. You should definitely speak to somebody. Your insurance agent would, of course, be the first place you should talk to them. If they don't offer it, if you sense any hesitation, if they're not very familiar with this, I would seek out somebody else in your industry, or ask another law firm, or we can put you in touch with somebody as well. But as I mentioned, that there's a whole form that they ask you to fill out because they want to better understand what are you doing today to protect. If you're working with a cloud provider, who is your cloud provider? Where is your data center? What are you doing what if I get hit with a ransomware attack in the cloud? Do you have frequent backups? Where do you store those backups? I mean, they ask like 50 to 100 questions. They're very, very detailed. They want to make sure that you have those, or open your mind to these things, right? And you make sure you go back to your provider and get those services. Um, so, yeah, that answers the question.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks, Biren. Um, so let's see, Susan. Susan is asking some backup. Oh, okay. She's asking about the image-based backup. Like, what does that actually mean? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I'm sure people remember the tape days or hard drive days where you used to have file-based backups, and if you left your file or database open, then that wouldn't get backed up, right? That was several years ago, but I still see some customers nowadays, even today, still have those external hard drive backups, right? So those are file-based backups, right? You run a backup at night, once a day on a tape or a hard drive, and it can only back up files that are not open, right? Nowadays, we have something called image or snapshot based backups where you're able to take an entire snapshot of a hard drive at any given point in time. So this results in backing up all your files, not just your files and folders, your pictures, but operating system files, registry files, application data, user profile data, anything and everything that's on that hard drive, right? It's like a snapshot at that point in time. And the beautiful thing about snapshots is you can take multiple snapshots throughout the day, and it's just a little incremental backup that gets added to the main backup, and then it compresses those. So there is recovery point objective and recovery time objective in backup, and we're going to address all these things in an upcoming webinar. But recovery point objective is how far back can I go, right? So the more backups you take, the more space you take up, right? And recovery time objective. So if you take more backups, you cannot really go too far back. So you really, as a business, have to decide that, how much, how far back, how much data can I afford to lose, right? And those are the discussions we have with our customers, and our systems that we deploy. We can tweak this, we can adjust it, we have an on-premise backup and we have a cloud backup. So it's very on-premise for quick recovery and cloud backup for the worst case scenarios. So that's a long answer to a short question, Lisa.
Okay, okay. I think that's very helpful. I see that Susan commented back to us on that. Please feel free to type in additional questions as we're going through here. So we have a question here from George. He says he's with a small, medium-sized, like manufacturing company, and what he's asking, he's asking, does he understand that you're saying his type of a business, small to medium size, is more vulnerable to additional threats after a threat has already been incurred?
Yeah, so that's, if I understand the question correctly, I think the user wants to know that, or may have been infected with or a ransomware attack, and what happens. So it's very true, actually. If your business has been affected by this type of an attack, they track you. They know that you're vulnerable, and they may come back to you. So it's just because you've been attacked once doesn't mean you're fine, and you're not going to be attacked again. So this is the time to reflect, take a step back, have those conversations, make sure you put the systems in place, make sure you train all your users, and make sure you're more careful at this point in time. Because if you can have a new employee start in a business who has absolutely maybe great at what they do, have the skills what you're looking for, but maybe an extremely poor computer user. And they can go back to the same website again and try to infect you if you don't have your systems up to snuff. So Definitely, that's an excellent point there. Yeah, keep that in mind.
Okay. And oh yeah, we just picked up another question here from Tracy. Oh, Tracy, she's one of actually our new clients. She was kind of, I guess she's confused about the idea. You were saying something about an email. If an email does not have an address in the to field,
Mm-hmm.
I think you were talking about the
Okay.
risks. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes when they send these messages out, they're sending to this is mass mailings, right? That they're doing, right? They want to hit as many people as they can, so they BCC, and so when it comes to you, it appears as if you received the email, but you have to expand and view details, and you will see that the two fields is usually blank. Oftentimes in Outlook, people don't have those expand details, and you feel like, okay, you got it as two, but it's really the two field is blank. It's just BCC section, blind copy. So that's how that works. Hopefully that answers your question. Again, that kind of concludes all the questions that we have, Lisa.
Yes, it does, Biren.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So I wanted to, before I leave, let everybody go, I wanted to make you aware of our upcoming webinars. This one I'm really excited about next month. We're going to be talking about Skype for Business, how to improve productivity. A lot of our customers using Office 365, which comes with Skype for Business. And it's not your regular Skype product. It's really designed for business. And there's a lot you can do with this product. So we'll be sending out invitations. Highly encourage that you send it to your end users so they can sign up. We'll try to keep it brief like this one. And all these are going to go on our website as well, which you can watch anytime. Uh, you can direct your users to our web page as well, which we'll share you in a second. The next one in June is going to be on backup NDR, and this is where we'll take a really deep dive into different strategies, RPO, RTO. We'll take some real world scenarios, different businesses, and different strategies on doing hybrid strategies and things like that. So highly recommend that you attend this, and that would conclude our spring series. Make a note of these. This is the URL where we'll be putting all these sessions, so you can watch it anytime. And once again, I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. It's been a real pleasure to talk about this topic with you all, and thank you for asking those great questions. Hopefully we have added some value to your organization. So keep coming back, foruminfotech.net/training. Thanks again, and have a great day. Bye.